Mr. Chairman. While we're waiting, I'll tell you a little bit about the Abu Dhabi Farmers Services Centre. As the Chairman kindly mentioned, we are a relatively new organisation formed in 2009. Our mandate is to provide support and advice to farmers in Abu Dhabi Emirate. Okay. There are, for those of you who don't know the area at all or don't know it very well, there are 24,000 small farmers in Abu Dhabi Emirate. So our task is to provide advice and what we call extension, that's consultation, and marketing services on behalf of those small farmers. We are a semi-government organisation, and so we also have a responsibility to also provide feedback from the producers to the government, so government is better able to formulate policy. So for us, it's very important that we have an effective and useful research and development facility. And to be honest, here in the UAE, I find that in my work that research and development is not particularly strong. There are numbers of facilities available, but the use of those to support the farmers, the basic producers, is certainly not being very effective or not being effectively used. So the theme today is firstly to look at what types of research and development are traditionally available, then to move on to one or two new areas, new opportunities, and then I'll give you an example of one area where we're working, where we have issues with research and development. So, traditionally, you have numbers of international organizations leading research, such as the Consortium for International Agricultural Research. You have government-led research organizations at a national level. You have government extension services. A little bit like ourselves, except that we have private sector activities as well. We have commercial activities as well. Most government-led extension services are purely based in the government sector and operate from a government budget. So in many cases, in many countries these days, the government-led services are being reduced in effectiveness because their budgets are very limited. There are opportunities for grant funds, direct matching of funds. Then, obviously, at a government level, there's policy support. Policy support is needed to bring about the level of research and development that is required at a high level. Obviously, we have private sector research and development, and more recently, there are the opportunity of challenge funds for bringing in public sector funds and matching those to perhaps riskier research and development activities. What support is currently needed to move the agribusiness sector forward? Well, as I said, personally, I feel that we need a lot of support to move the basic production sector forward, because research and development is not particularly strong and it's not particularly targeted. So I've included here a quote from a professor at MIT University in America, and I think it's worthwhile reading it out. And this quote is that he's talking about research and development generally, in the science sphere generally, but he says, rather, we need to foster the development of an innovation ecosystem. And in this context, innovation equals invention plus commercialization. And he says it's a product idea, technology, software algorithm, patent, new business mode idea, or similar invention is not innovation until it is successfully married to a commercialization capability so that it has a positive and material real-world impact. To complete our equation circle, I should explicitly state that successful research results equals invention, although invention can encompass much more than simply research breakthroughs. And that's Ed Roberts, a professor at MIT. And basically what he's talking about is that if we have research and development, it needs to be a complete system. There's no point having research and development for the point of research and development. Sure, we need some pure research, but we also need to be researching things which are going to be useful and have a commercial aspect. So, what is the innovation ecosystem? Well, it takes in the whole cycle. So if we start with government at the top, government makes regulations, taxes, makes laws. Then we have demand. Where is the demand for research coming from? Well, it's coming from a whole range of places, the economy generally, big companies, smaller companies, individual producers. The invention. This is generally with universities, although it could be at a corporate level. It could be at an individual level. Funding. Well, this is usually where we come into the first level of constriction, because funding is often limited for research and development. But there are, as we've already seen, more options becoming available. Infrastructure. Physical services, infrastructure and services are often quite limited in this area, and so we need to make sure that those resources that are available are used effectively and used well. Entrepreneurs. Well, the labour pool here is very wide. There are great opportunities. There are many entrepreneurs here. Education. We continually need to educate people. We continually need to improve their understanding. Networking. One of the best ways of promoting better research and better development, more targeted research and more targeted development, is that we need to network. We all need to get together and to discuss. Culture. Well, here we have many different cultures. This is a place where cultures mix freely, but we still find that some cultures find the adoption of change difficult. I know that I have regular visits to farms where I come with a new idea and the farmer's mind is completely closed to this idea. Okay, so we need to find innovative ways to get across those ideas. We need to be very practical and very focused in how we put across those ideas. So we're looking at a whole system, a whole cycle. We can't just look at one section or one part of the system in isolation. Who needs support? Well, we all need support. I think we all understand that every section of the value chain needs to be supported. We all continue to learn. We all continue to develop. So different levels of support are needed for different parts of the industry. For smallholders, we need one particular type of support and research. For large-scale producers, we need a completely different level of research. How are we going to determine the focus areas and their mechanisms? Well, it should be a combination of the whole industry. The whole industry, all sections of it need to get together and to discuss with government. Government primarily needs to lead the process through a consultation process. consultation with industry and with end users. There needs to be observation. We need to be observing what is going on. Is it a local activity? Can we see it with our eyes? Can we touch it here locally? Is it something that we can develop, we can look at, that's being developed on a worldwide basis that we need to just take and adopt here locally? Also, we need to make sure that the research and development fits in with government priorities. Quite often, some of the more innovative ideas are challenging government priorities. And while that's a good thing, we also need to think about how government is going to be able to support and adopt those and to present those to local industry. We also have to be aware of the market demand. What is needed? Who needs these things? How are they going to adopt it? How are they going to use it? Now, what needs to be researched and developed? I could give a great big long list here, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to talk in a general sense, because recently in Abu Dhabi there was a similar forum. There was the Global Forum for Innovation in Agriculture. And this was all about high-tech solutions to agricultural problems. Lots of companies came from worldwide, participated, exhibited their best practices. Very interesting, but was it appropriate for local producers? And I would say that 90% of it was not. Okay, so we have to think about what is it that we need, what do local producers need? So we need to look at a whole range of technologies. Do we need low technology, such as, very simply, what are the best type of vegetable to grow? I have a field. Do I need to grow variety A, variety B? Medium level of technology. Development of controlled release fertilizers, for example, is very important here with the soils and the irrigation systems that we have. We need to be able to control the fertilizers and their use, their movement in the soil to prevent salinity problems. The use of controlled release fertilizers is a good opportunity. High technology. A great example here is for date palms, we ought to be using molecular markers to select specific traits for improved breeding programs. All of these need different support and they bring different challenges. The outcomes, well, they all need to be in line with government policy and strategy, although they may challenge the current practice, the current thinking and the current strategy. They need to be beneficial for industry. They need to be safe. And very importantly, they need to be easy to use. A big issue for me as a person who goes to advise farmers is that if you come up with a great innovative idea, but it's so complicated to use, nobody's going to take it on because they can't understand it. So it has to be appropriate. I have a big issue here with something that everybody's talking about at the moment. We all need to save water. One of the big things that's being put forward as a great water-saving technology is the use of hydroponics. Hydroponics is not new technology. It was around when I was a student. That's far too long ago for me to talk about publicly. But here, unfortunately, too many people are trying to get involved in it without really understanding the technology. And all that's happening is government money, funding agencies are all putting their money into this, and it's failing. And it's failing because we simply cannot make it simple enough for people to understand and be able to manage it. Okay, so if we're going to come forward with new ideas, then we need to make it easy to manage. Now, I'm going to talk quickly about date palms, something that we're doing with date palms. In Abu Dhabi, virtually all farms have date palm trees. Lots of issues with date palm trees, poor management, lots of pest and disease problems. There's a serious need for change. We manage on behalf of the farmers in Abu Dhabi about 4 million date palm trees, okay? The chairman mentioned the need to conserve water, to save water. It's a very limited resource. Farmers grossly overwater date palm trees. We need more research, we need more work on helping them to save water. We have lots of pest and disease problems, lots of issues with fertilization of date palm trees. What needs to be done? Well, we can't continue. There is a strong demand for change. We have lots of opportunities in marketing of better quality dates. We are working to introduce good agricultural practices, and consumers are demanding higher quality products which are clean and safe and free from many of the pesticide residues which were found in the dates before because of the very dangerous types of chemicals that needed to be used. So we're working with the farmers to try and improve tree management. Every week we train farmers. Last Thursday was our date training day. Every week on a Thursday is date training. We train 3,000 farmers on date palm, aspects of better date palm production. All farms have these big problems. All of them poorly manage the trees, poorly use the irrigation systems very ineffectively. One of the big issues for those people who don't understand is red date palm weevil and fruit borer and stem borers. So the picture on the left just shows one of the big pest problems that we have, and on the right we're showing some of the better training techniques pruning techniques that we're using to try and prevent some of these problems. So those are some of the low technology approaches that I was talking about, the training, the sharing of information. Some of the higher technology approaches that we're using are the improved soil fertility and fertilization. So we're using controlled release fertilizers. We're using a number of other soil additives, such as mycorrhiza, type of fungus that we add to the soil to colonize the soil and to attach itself to the roots to help the tree to better absorb water and better absorb some of the nutrients in the soil. We also are trying to introduce into the soil some microorganisms which will also colonize the soil and help to control some of the pests and diseases which are available. Okay? So this is quite new technology and it's quite advanced. There aren't many places in the world that are doing this kind of thing. Who needs to be involved in all of this process? Well, the farmers need to be involved. We need to encourage them to engage and to actively participate and to understand this process. Otherwise, there's no sustainability. The value chain. We need all of the value chain to be involved because there's no point us developing high-value dates if, what am I going to do with them? Who wants them? Where are they going to go to? So this process needs to address the producer, it needs to address the market chain, but it also needs support from government. We need long-term government support and policy and strategy to help the industry to develop for the long term into the future. So we need government to set realistic policy. We need to inform, we need to educate, we need to support and improve farmer practice. We need to monitor pest and disease levels and reduce reliance on chemical use. We need to fully implement good agricultural practices, and we need, in this case, to promote local dates as a high-quality product. Now, why have I given that as an example? I've talked about that part of the industry today because we are an advisory organization. We're working with the farmers. My main task is to visit all the farmers every day and to tell them, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. To make that program effective, I need an effective research and development industry somewhere behind me, feeding me the information that I can then pass to the farmers. At this time, I don't have that. So what we're doing in this program, which I've just briefly explained to you this morning, is we are carrying out that research and development ourselves on farmers' fields. You may say that's great because that shows that this is either commercially acceptable or not commercially acceptable. It also carries big risks in that if I introduce a process that doesn't work and the farmer's trees suddenly become infected with a new pest or a new disease, or my system doesn't help to control these pests and diseases, then the farmer is left with a loss. And he comes, Mr. Ray, what are you doing? I've lost 50 kilos of dates. I have no income. What can I say? Sorry? Is that good enough? No, it's not. The farmer is left without money. Maybe his kids can't go to school. All sorts of issues. We need to have proper, funded, well-funded research and development activities which support us so that we can go to the farmers and inform them about appropriate technology. Thank you for listening today. I hope I haven't been too controversial, but I do believe that there is a big future for agriculture here, and I think that if it's supported in the right way, I think we can develop something very worthwhile. But we need to make sure that we have full support throughout the whole of the value chain. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time this morning and for jumping in at such short notice.
My main question is basically why R&D does not exist. Is it in your mind the skill set, the attraction factor, or it's just pure funding? Because I remember a few years back, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed had committed to allocating budgets for R&D, and in this particular region, it would be puzzling to understand that if it's a priority, there's no funding for it. Maybe in other regions it's possible, but I just need a bit of clarity. What would be the main challenge for R&D? Is it still funding as everywhere else or something else?
Well, look, sure. Funding is always an issue. I think, unless you're Bill Gates, funding is always going to be a problem. We have to be realistic about that. But I also think that one of the key issues is understanding what research is needed. In my view, there's a disconnect between the producer, the end user of the technology, the innovation that's going to be researched and developed, and the researchers. So research establishments do exist. Quite often, they simply do not get out there and ask what research is required. My own opinion is that often too much of the research here is more about somebody's personal interest rather than about what is needed for the industry. And so we really need to get away from that and to focus upon what the farmers want, what the producers want, what's needed in the market chain, how can we best get these products to the market in a good condition. Those are the things that need to be looked at, rather than some very focused aspect of some obscure pest or disease.
Good morning. I might have a controversial question as well. Is it not just one big fight against nature? And should it not be accepted that producing in this area is a fight against nature? And is it not better to produce the products in areas where it is designed to produce, like certain parts of Africa or Asia? That's my question.
Well, I think you're asking a question which is a bit beyond my capability to give an easy answer. But within it's government policy here to look at supporting the small farmers which exist. It's not necessarily government policy to look at expanding those farmers, the numbers of those farms, but given the circumstances that we have, our mandate is to help those guys to become more efficient, more effective, to produce more, and to do it without damaging the environment. Okay, so we are looking at becoming more intensive, getting more crop per drop in particular, trying to do it in a safer and much less harmful way. At the same time, at a national level, government is certainly looking to promote investment into other areas where there are opportunities to produce perhaps at a lower cost or in greater quantity, so that local food security issues are addressed.
In order to keep track of our delay time a little bit, I'm going to have to stop the questions now. Of course, we've got networking opportunities later. If you've got any more questions for Ray, I'm sure he'll address them a bit later in the day. In the meantime, thank you ever so much for coming.
Welcome.
And hope you enjoyed this first presentation. Thank you.